Day 2. Before I even cut the pattern, sew the pattern, I like to read the instructions, and then when I cut, then I do it again and again, because I just want to make sure I'm fully understanding what they're asking me. I like to fold my instructions down to know exactly what I'm looking at, so I don't get too ahead of myself and stress out and take sewing patterns literally step by step, even line by line. Very first page where it says general directions, you want to look and see what seam allowance we are sewing at. And in this pattern, it's saying 5/8. 5/8 is a pretty common seam allowance. What that means is when you put it into your sewing machine, you are going to be just 5/8 of an inch away from the needle. If you want to make sure you are doing it correctly, which I do because I find that sometimes I just struggle with this, I will go to my sewing machine and I will measure from the needle, and I know 5/8 is 1 dash after the half. I also have this little magnetic thing that goes onto my sewing plate, and I put it right where it needs to be, and my fabric just runs right up against it. I also recently just bought this, and it gives you seam allowances and a guide. And I got this at Hobby Lobby, and I just wanted to check it out and see if I liked it. Put it underneath your needle. We're doing 5/8 seam allowance. I put the needle through the hole, pushed my magnet over. You can use washi tape or painter's tape. Lift up the needle and pull it out, and you'll know for sure your 5/8 seam allowance. So the first step is doing our pockets. So what I like to do first is look at both sides of my fabric. Which one do I like better? So I like this side. Some fabrics, there's an obvious front and back, and so it's easier, but whereas this fabric, it's a little bit harder to tell. So this is my lining, and you remember how we made these triangles, notches? We want to line up the main fabric with our lining fabric, right sides together. So I chose this side. I want to put, you see how I say there's an obvious front and back, and I line them up. Get your pins or clips ready. We sewed a 5/8 seam allowance, left a space open, and finished it. Iron towards the lining and give it a good press, and then I'm going to grade my seam allowance, which means just trim it down so there's less bulkiness around the pockets. We pressed the seam towards the lining. The next step says with right sides together, which right sides are still together. Fold upper edge of the pocket, which is right here. Fold upper edge of pocket along the fold line. Fold line, if you get your pattern piece back out for number 2, so which is your main fabric, here is your fold line. So I like to put it on and then kind of do it like this, so then I know.
Sorry to hear my son, he's bringing me ice cream. Thank you.
I think is easiest is starting at the bottom. Pin your bottom. Kind of have this at the end, kind of this excess fabric. So then you're gonna pull it tight. And then I'm going to pin all on the sides. We finished our pockets, and now we are on to the step of our front.
Let me show you which one. So I just finished this one. No, I didn't. Pieces are so big. So I just finished
Attaching the pocket and doing this little reinforcement right here. So that's what we're going to do next. So grab your front piece. You have your dots right here. It says to measure, you want to sew within the 5/8 seam allowance, and you're going to sew an inch on both sides of the dot. And then after you're done, you're going to want to cut it in the middle all the way up to it, but not through the seam. What that's going to do is when it lays here, it's just going to give it a little bit more ease. And then we'll be attaching the pocket. Remember, we put those marks. We're just going to line it up. My pocket's all nice and done. I just have to add, at the very end, I will slip stitch that. And so that I measured 1 inch from the line, 1 inch, and it's going to be inside that because this is not a 5/8 seam allowance. It's just a guide. So now we're going to go to our sewing machine. I like to switch my stitch to a smaller stitch because we are reinforcing. So I'm going to do it to 2.0. So make sure you put your fabric on correctly, so all you have to do is lift your pressure footer to maneuver the fabric. I'm going to lift my pressure foot and turn and turn. And a nice little reinforced corner right there. And I'm going to find my markings for my pocket. We are so close to being done with attaching these pockets. We're in the home stretch. We got this. Take your time, look for those markings, and then when you pin, pin perpendicular. We're going to be sewing very close to the edge of the pocket fabric. So be slow and be intentional. You got this. Not a problem, but you see how maybe this blue will be showing? I don't want that blue to show. So while I'm sewing, I'm going to be pushing that blue in underneath that side because I don't want any of my lining to be showing on the front. Take your pocket to the sewing machine. You are going to be making a very close stitch right along the edge of the pocket, and be sure to only do 3 sides. Remember, it's a pocket. We need to leave an opening for a pocket. Go slow. You got this.